Hey college football fans, episode 33 of Walk It Off with Chappy, and as I'm getting ready to watch my youngest daughter try and win a softball league championship, we're going to talk championships here and consider this the red balloon episode, and we're talking about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now there's claims by some people that Nebraska should win the Big Ten West, and there's a lot of Nebraska doubters who raise similar questions. How can we expect a Nebraska team led by Scott Frost, who hasn't had a winning season in Lincoln yet as their head man, when they lose a four-year starting quarterback and basically their quote-unquote only offense, when they lose two starting offensive linemen, when they lose four of their top five leading pass catchers from a year ago, when they have a new offensive coordinator, new receivers coach, new offensive line coach, breaking all of this in and having to play in a competitive Big Ten conference. Why should we expect the Nebraska Cornhuskers to challenge and contend? Well, let's look at what they've got in 2022. So offensively, they bring in Casey Thompson, a transfer portal haul from Texas, who I can imagine has a lot of motivation to prove the world that he can play quarterback. We saw it in the Alamo Bowl 2 years ago against Colorado, where he was red hot, completed over 80% of his passes, 4 touchdowns, and all of them, or I think 3 out of the 4, were strikes that were over 40 yards. He's got 3 returning offensive linemen to protect him, as well as a couple others who logged a decent number of snaps and have some pretty good experience. They got some help for him in the transfer portal. So in addition to Omar Manning and Oliver Martin coming back, they brought in Trey Palmer from LSU. They brought in Garcia Castaneda, I should say, at wide receiver from New Mexico State. He was their leading pass catcher a year ago. And they also brought in Marcus Washington, also from the University of Texas, to give them some deep threats. And like I said, Manning and Martin are 2 pretty good receivers in their own right. And oh, by the way, they also have an underrated tight end room that I think is going to surprise some people this year. We're talking guys like Travis Vokalek, who has done pretty well with Big Red. Sean Beckton, their tight ends coach, is one of the better ones at that position. And then also keep an eye out for guys like A.J. Rollins and Nate Burkirker. So 2 names who showed up pretty well in the spring this year. I think that could play well for Thompson in that passing attack. And let's not forget, Nebraska's passing numbers last year, they were 27th nationally in passing yards offense. They were 36th in pass efficiency offense, which I think is the most telling stat, and they were number 6 in yards per completion. Now again, I know a lot of that came from the arm of Adrian Martinez, but in terms of a passer, I don't see too much of a drop-off with Casey Washington. Now, defensively, this is where the Cornhuskers, I think, are a little bit better. You look at what Eric Chinander has done, Coach Chins, and I'm not saying that because he's got things hanging from below the jawline. That's his nickname, and he's earned the right to be called what he wants because that defense has gotten better and better with each of his seasons in Lincoln. And I think he's going to have a front 3 that can create some problems. I mean, you're looking at guys like O'Shawn Mathis, a transfer in from TCU, Ty Robinson, who was already here in Lincoln, 2 pretty good DNs, and then a name to watch out for, Nash Hutmacher at nose guard. Dude's a mammoth, big guy who should take up some double teams on the inside, freeing up one of the best linebacking quartets, if not in the country, then certainly in the Big Ten. So you look at Garrett Nelson and Caleb Tanner, not to mention Jamari Butler. Those are 3 good outside linebacker types. 2 of those will play, and I think Nelson could be a dark horse candidate for Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. And on the inside, Luke Reimer, their leading tackler from a year ago, Nate Heinrich. Those 2 clean up any and all garbage on the inside. So some good tacklers, good sound tacklers, and good defensive minds at that linebacker position. The secondary is a bit green, especially at safety, but having cornerbacks Quentin Newsome and transfers Tommy Hill from Arizona State, who was a high-level recruit when he signed with the Sun Devils, as well as Omar Brown coming in from Northern Iowa, Made all conference, and I think was a second or third team All-American at the FCS level. And then there's also Tyreek Johnson, who transferred in from Ohio State last year, who should play well for them also. You look at their schedule, they have 2 winnable games before they host Oklahoma, and also they start off with playing Northwestern out in Dublin, Ireland. So I think those are at least 3 out of those 4 should be victories. I hate to say it against my Wildcats, but then you also have the fact that they've played Oklahoma close in the last couple of meetings. They have Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota, and Wisconsin at home. I think Minnesota and Wisconsin, those are the big ones that they have to get. They've got to win those 2 if they want to win the West. And their road trips include Rutgers, Purdue, Michigan in between those. So really, the road trip to Ann Arbor is, the tough one. But again, at that point in the season, if things are going well enough for Big Red, that may not be as much of a long shot as people think. So here's my reason why I am included in that group that's calling for the Huskers to be at the top of the Big Ten West. Scott Frost is committed to winning, okay? And he's seen winning as a player there in Lincoln. He's also seen winning in his stops at Oregon. Really all they did was win. It's well documented that he took a UCF team that was winless. The next year they went 6-7. The following year they went undefeated and claimed a mythical national championship. Other guys that they have on that staff or in that program that have seen winning, Athletic Director Trev Alberts. He was there in the early 90s under Tom Osborne. And I think that was a positive change to kind of get some new, fresh, hungry blood at the top. Mark Whipple, their offensive coordinator, was at Pitt last year, did great things with Kenny Pickett. Even before last year, he had that Pitt offense working. He's won a national title at UMass when he was their head coach back in the early 2000s, I think, maybe late 90s. Brian Applewhite, their new running backs coach. He won a championship at Northern Colorado in the FCS level. Mickey Joseph was on the staff at LSU when they won it all and had one of the best teams and one of the best receiving corps ever in 2019. So something's got to give. Frost knows that there's pressure on him right now more than ever, and I think prior to this year he knew there was pressure, but he didn't really treat it like pressure. But now he knows. He's restructured his contract, he's reworked things to ensure that whatever it's going to take to get Nebraska football back into winning ways, that's what's going to happen. And I think that, we know he's somebody who can flex and adapt, I should say. He was an option quarterback. He played passing quarterback at Stanford before he got to Nebraska, and then when he went to the NFL, he played safety. So changing things for the sake of being successful is something that Scott Frost, I think, has done and can do, and it's a make or break year. So I am going to put my faith in Scott Frost, and I'm going to put my faith in Trev Alberts, and I'm going to put my faith in a lot of those guys who were brought in via the transfer portal, and those guys who stayed and stuck it out. We're talking about guys like Garrett Nelson, and we're talking about guys like Luke Reimer, and we're talking about guys like Quentin Newsome, and we're talking about guys like the players in the offensive line, whose names are escaping me. And I know this has gone long, but Nebraska is not a scrub program. Scott Frost is not a scrub coach. So we'll see what happens. But those are some reasons why I'm going to have faith in the Nebraska Cornhuskers in 2022 to be atop the Big Ten West. Now, I know Husker fans are going to love this. I know other fans within the division, even some of my favorite Northwestern people, are going to be throwing things when they see this. But tell me your thoughts and give me some reasoning as to why I might be right or why I might be dead wrong. But I love talking this stuff. I'm Chappy, and this is what I know.